All right. So today we have the introduction, and correct me if I pronounce the company name wrong, but we have the introduction of Casa, Oilio, Sperlonga, Spa. Is that correct?
It's okay. It's fine.
Okay. What is the proper way?
Sperlonga, maybe it's easier.
How do you normally, or what is the correct way to pronounce the company name? And do you
Casa,
always
Casa, Oilio, Sperlonga. It's correct. What you said.
Okay. And you always use the full name, right? It's not just Casa.
Well, actually, we use Cos.
Cos. Okay. That's what I wanted to hear. So it's a new company, participates in X-Culture the first time. It's part of the Alibaba track. So those of you who chose that option or are assigned to that track, please pay special attention. And so I'll turn the microphone to you for the introductions. And I'm not sure, did you prepare some little presentation, or we can jump right into the questions? We have a lot of questions already. There will be probably more, but it might be best if you said a few words about the company.
I would say I have not prepared a PowerPoint presentation, but
and that's good. We don't like PowerPoint presentations.
I have some ideas maybe for you, because we can share some ideas. Yeah. I introduce myself as well. Because,
yes, please. Yes.
I'm actually the general manager of the company, but with a special, let's say, attention on marketing and sales. I have joined this company. Me and the CEO, we know each other since many years, but I joined the company 1.5 years ago to make a turnover of the company, but mainly to improve the sales, the international sales. The company itself, actually, it's a very old company. Casa Sperlonga is almost 150 years now.
Whoa, so, that is old.
It is old, because the ancestors of Domenico Sperlonga used to already deal with olive oil. In Italy, we have a long history in olive oil, and so the company is 150 years. And in the last, let's say, 30 years, the company has completely focused on, international sales, export sales. So actually, our sales in Italy are very low for many reasons. I'm not going to tell you about this. But let's say the focus of the company is now export. And I would say we are mainly selling in, in the Far East Asia and China. So, for example, we are the major exporter of olive oil in Vietnam. We have 40% market share in Vietnam. In China as well, we have a branch. So we are a pioneer, I would say, in olive oil in China, since we have a branch since 12 years already. So, sorry, 14 years, actually, 14 years. Okay, so it's quite a long time. And we export in other areas of the world, like in US, Canada, and in US, for example, we have a logistic partner. So we have someone to stock our products to deliver in US and Canada, because it's probably you are in US, so it's quite complicated. So
yeah, very true, very true.
And the same is in China. So that's why we actually decided to have these two, let's say, logistic poles outside of Italy. The rest actually we serve from Italy, so we can ship all over the world. And let's say when I arrived, I actually defined that we need to expand more in the world, because olive oil is growing everywhere, let's say, in the world, and we want to grow in many countries where we are not present. I make an example, since I lived in Brazil. Brazil is a huge importer of olive oil, mainly from Portugal, probably but there are so many Italians in the south of Brazil and Argentina as well, that we can open some new markets over there. And I say that generally olive oil is really something that is growing everywhere in the world. So like I would say Australia, India, in many countries, we see a high demand of olive oil. Another big change that we have introduced in the last year is that we have not, let's say, concentrated only on the, let's say, the pure or the extra virgin olive oil, we have developed new products. Okay, and this is a first challenge for the students, I would say, because this is something very new, something for you to develop in terms of marketing, in terms of the project sales and things like this. So what we have done, we have now created some, let's say, oils that we call functionals, and we are going to issue probably in 1 or 2 months supplemented oils as well. Okay, so the idea is to have a healthy product that helps your health with daily, daily feeding, daily alimentation. Okay, so I'm making an example. The functional oils are oil that are, for example, we call the antioxidant, that is oil with an high content of polyphenols. So I'm going a bit technical by trying to not to be very technical. Polyphenols is the secret of Mediterranean diet, very clear. So a high content of polyphenols is basically an improvement of what is the benefit of olive oil in the diet. So we have a triple quantity of polyphenols compared to a standard, let's say, extra virgin olive oil. But it is a standard, let's say, extra virgin. We don't add anything. It's just a selection that we do. Okay, so this is the first oil. We have another oil that we call the good cholesterol, because it's omega-3, 6, and 9.
Omega-3. Yeah.
Okay, and another one that is vitamin added, or vitamin, as you say in the US. Okay.
Yep.
And as well, this is very very good selling oil in the Asian country for kid. In fact, we call the kiddie. Okay, so these are the 3, let's say, functions. Besides, we are in the supplemented one. We'll have mainly astaxanthin, that is probably the strongest antioxidant in the world today. We have something for women, that is the Coenzyme Q10.
It seems like we lost the connection for a second. Yeah. Okay, it's working now. Yeah, we lost you for about 2 seconds.
And the last one we are going to introduce quickly is the one with lutein, so for ice. Okay, so the idea is to change a little bit the paradigm, not to stay only on the basic product, but also to add some, let's say, functions or some supplements to the oils. Yeah. So this is one part, one, let's say, challenge for people.
Can I ask you a question about that, if I may? So I'm looking at your website, and I see you have quite a few different products. So from sort of conventional looking bottles of oil to very fancy oil, like, in fancy packaging.
The fancy one is the one I'm going to talk now.
And I see you even sell like big 25-liter.
Yes, this is because this is the Alibaba site. And so this is what we call the bulk. So we sell a lot of bulk oil, let's say, in large quantity, in flexi tanks, because there are people who want to bottle the oil themselves. For example, we have some customers in South America that buy the bulk oil and then they bottle themselves.
And I see you even have the actual olives, just
this is a partner for us, but we also have this. Okay.
Very nice, very nice. Okay, yeah. So please tell us about this fancy stuff then.
The fancy stuff. Okay, is the one you can see the logo behind me, actually. Okay, this is a brand new stuff as well. Actually, is what we call the Oilio dei Papi, and the oil of the popes. So it's an easy translation. And this oil actually is something that we have created from some studies actually that we have done in our area. Let's say that popes in the 17th century were, olive oil in Italy has an history of more than 2,000 years since Roman time. So in the area where we are, that is the south of Rome, actually we were the first in Italy to have, let's say, olive oil plants. And in the, let's say, in the Pope state, they were lacking olive oil, so they were importing olive oil, and they actually they choose this area, exactly the area where we are located, as the best area for the production of olive oil, best for quality. I mean, okay.
So where exactly in Italy are you? So
we are south of Rome.
South of Rome. So that's a little bit further south, but not all the way south.
The province are Frosinone and Latina. So
that's close to Macerata. Is it in that area?
No. The Macerata used to be of the Popes as well, but was the northern part of the.
So they're a little further north. Okay.
We are in the really the southern part, both of Latium and let's say of the Pope state. Okay.
Okay.
So what they do, they made a special campaign for people to grow olive trees, to make new olive trees, to have a special quality olive trees. And I mean, what we are doing is to use all the olives that were planted 200 years ago to produce this oil. So it's a special, let's say, high quality oil, of course, is a special olive oil trees, and I mean, defined by the Pope already many years ago as one of the best for the area, the Pope state. And so we are launching this, okay, as you said, this is a fancy one, but I mean, we want to make a complete project for this oil. It's a very high quality, let's say, in the terms of taste, but also we are doing something social and social marketing, because what we want to do is to people get back to the, let's say, abundant olive trees, sorry. And so we want people to get back, and we want tourism to be improved in this area. And so there is a sort of world project in terms of this olive oil. So we have many producers, a big cooperative of producer giving us this oil, making a special effort to maintain the quality of this oil very high. So it's a good stuff to improve. And I mean, we started the production in December last year. So it's a very, very new project. We need to develop the sales of this oil all over the world. So we have, in this case, actually, we are starting in Italy. But of course, I believe that in all, let's say, countries where the Pope and let's say that the religion, the Catholics have an appeal, it could be interesting, but not only. I make an example in China, that we know quite well. The number one selling oil is the oil that is the official supplier of the Royal House of Spain. So I believe that also Chinese like this special.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
There is a question from Amalia Wills here about, so she has a question, do you want to add more products to your portfolio besides oil or olive oils? I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, we have already, let's say, added this let's say, this function on supplemented oil. We are a portfolio that is growing anyhow. The oil of popes as well is a special one. I don't think we're going to introduce other products more than this today, I mean, in the shorter terms. But I don't think.
Maybe Amelia will come up with an interesting new product idea, so interesting that you will look at it. One question about your production process. Who owns the trees? So is that the company that actually grows oils, or you buy it from the local farmers and then you make the oil?
Well, no. We do have some, let's say, our own olive trees, but I mean, it would not be sufficient for,
of course,
needs of our market. So we buy from a producer, local producer, or let's say we have different, let's say, suppliers. So we have Italian in general, so we can have also a lot of the Italian olive oil is produced in Puglia. So we buy a lot from Puglia. And when we talk about European oil, we have Greece and Spain and Portugal. So our oil is a blend of all this. Because I mean, not we have different demands from all over the world. So you can have people demanding Italian, you can have people demanding European, or even the Tunisian oil sometimes.
Yeah. How about your competition? So I imagine there are many olive oil producers. So who are your biggest competitors, but also how do you differentiate yourself from the competition?
Oh, that's a very good question, because I mean, there are many competitors from let's say the bigger one, from the Oilio International, to a lot of smaller competitors. So I would say there are thousands in general of competitors, both
Probably,
in
yes.
and in Europe in general. Moreover, actually, we see some competition coming also from local production made in Brazil, Argentina, in Australia. So there are people who are growing olive oil in olive trees to make olive oil in this area. In the terms of competition, I mean, all of them are making the competition for us. The problem, I mean, why we have developed those products, the special products, because all people are saying the same things. My olive oil is the best quality. My olive oil is grown from my family trees. I mean, but in fact, the differentiated factor is very limited when we talk about, let's say, simple extra virgin olive oil. That's why we have introduced, let's say, the antioxidant, the special functional oils, the supplemented one, this oil of the popes, but because at least we have something more that we can differentiate. Because this is a big problem of the oil of many, let's say, agricultural products, but olive oil is one with very complicated differentiating factors.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true. One more question about the production, and then we have a lot of questions about the business model. So with the climate change, so we hear that the temperatures are getting warmer in some regions, drier in others. So is that a threat for your company? And is it possible that soon enough, some other countries that traditionally did not grow olives may have a climate suitable for growing olives, and that will be more competition for you? So is that an issue at all for your industry, or not as much?
Well, if you say, if you think about climate, I would say no, because all the oil is stored in let's say in an environment that has not a big dramatic, let's say, temperature change. Of course, outside, yes, there is a dramatic temperature change, but actually we don't use, since a long time, we don't use external tanks for olive oil. So we just have, let's say, internal with controlled temperature. Okay, so this is not a problem. Of course, I mean, the competition is trying to develop a local production wherever there is a production of olive oil, even in countries that, you know, used to be marginal. Like I'm thinking about Syria. Syria is starting that production. Of course, I mean, this is the economy, I would say. We cannot do anything.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I wonder if Asia will start growing olives anytime soon, if it's possible.
There have been some trials in China, I know, but at present they are not very successful in the production. They need the quality. I believe the climate is not the ideal.
Still not
I think in the Mediterranean area, let's say some specific area like California, like let's say southern Brazil, northern Argentina, those are areas where the olive trees probably can be grown up. But
I also wonder Africa, like sub-Saharan Africa.
South Africa is producing olive trees.
Oh, South Africa already? Okay. Yeah, I normally wouldn't connect South Africa with olives, but I imagine that they may have a suitable climate.
Yeah. Well, Northern Africa as well. I mean, Tunisia, Algeria, they do have their own production. The quality is still not comparable, I would say, but they do have the production.
Interesting. Alessio Casa is asking, are you interested more into spreading in the Far East, or would you like to improve the performance in the South American markets? So basically, what specific markets around the world you are most interested in expanding into?
Well, if I think about expansion, I would prefer, of course, South America, because our presence in the Far East is already a good one. So if I think about the risk factor let's say, to diminish a risk factor, I would prefer to go to newer market like, for us, new market like South America. But I mean, North America is an immense market.
Exactly, North America, and here, at least lately, I noticed there is this sort of aura of respect for olive oil. So it used to be all about canola oil. I still remember that it was the American oil, and now I see more and more sort of almost not quite fetish, but people believe that it's much better for your health. And so I see a lot of excitement about olive oil. Americans still don't know much about it. So most of the things we buy, we just go to Costco and buy whatever they have there. Nobody really knows what's good, what's bad. But it seems like it would be the next sort of big market. I'm not sure why canola oil is losing its appeal, but olive oil is definitely gaining. So.
Actually, there was a study very recently of the American College of Cardiology, I think, was it, that actually made a very extensive study on the use of olive oil in the US. And they stated that people who used to take everyday olive oil have a much better, let's say, quality in the cardiovascular.
Yeah, I can believe it. Yeah. At my family, we use olive oil and sunflower oil. And so I like the taste of sunflower. You almost cannot find it in the United States. Very, very rarely, like you have to go to some of those specialty stores to buy them. And then olive oil just simply tastes better for me. But I don't know, some people, yeah. But it's more expensive too. So it's more expensive than canola. And obviously, I don't know, some people look at the price, I suppose. Yeah. So now a few questions about your business model. First and foremost, many students send me emails asking about your distribution channels. So we know that you're on Alibaba. So does it mean that you sell some of your oil directly to the consumers? But then also you mentioned some distribution partners. You mentioned also that you work with some local representatives. So are you selling through the store chains? Are you selling through the distributors that then work with the stores? How does it work with your distribution?
Yeah, our model is indirect, completely indirect. So we don't sell to end user at present. Okay, because Alibaba is actually a B2B platform today.
So yeah, that's something we wanted to clarify. So again, a lot of questions. So you are on Alibaba, the B2B, not AliExpress, the B2C part, right?
No, no.
So all I see here, I cannot just go and buy one bottle for $2.99. No. So that's okay. Yeah, that a lot of students asked about that. So okay. So tell us more about your distribution channel and how it works in general.
So I was saying mainly we have let's say indirect market. So mainly we sell to distributors, to importers and distributors. Very rarely to let's say supermarket channels all over. Some of the distributors actually they make their own sales online. In some areas, but I mean, as I said, we tend to be at least to supply distributors mainly, so all over the world. I mean, it is difficult for us to comply with small quantities.
Of course, yeah. So how big should be the quantity for you to be interesting?
Well, we think we speak about containers from one container and more. It's okay.
Okay, so that's that's big. Now, one question that most of our clients asked, and we didn't specifically discuss that with you, but I wonder if you would be interested in that. So almost all companies that work with Xculture, they say that maybe students should find local distributors or maybe big store chains and talk to the managers there and ask, would you be interested in buying this product? Would you like our students to do so? And if so, what should they say? How would it go? We've had in the past cases when students literally would go to like a big store chain and say, hey, there is this company, would you like to talk about it? And some of them said, actually, let's take a look, maybe we can. And so we had contracts in the past for large shipments of different products. So might it work like that with your company, or it's much more complicated than that?
No, it will work. I mean, if we're talking about chains, I mean, right.
Or big distribution centers or something like that, right? Yeah, I imagine it's a product that people buy in every single location. Some are more popular, some are less, but I imagine that anywhere, like for example, here in the United States, I mean, we have so many local store chains. We have, large ones like Costco and Walmart, obviously. And so they buy somebody's oil. I have no idea how it works, but so what does it take, by the way, to get into a large, supply chain like that, like Costco, like what kind of negotiations, do you know how this works?
Costco is a complicated one. Actually, you wouldn't be able to.
Right. You wouldn't talk to them, of course.
You have to make many questionnaires, to fill a lot of questionnaires, that they make let's say a vendor evaluation, and then you can start talking. I mean, there is a big,
with these big ones, I imagine that's like a whole negotiation team from each company, right? So it's a very complicated process.
There's a big screening, let's say, effect before reaching those large companies. But I mean, all over the world. I mean, we are, for example, a supplier of Nestle Group since many years, and I know it's extremely difficult for other companies to get in, because it's they have so many steps you have to comply that right. It's very complicated. I mean, this is in general, when you have very big company chains, supermarket chains are probably the most complicated in this sense. While the distributors are not so, let's say, strict in the sense, they tend to be a bit more flexible.
Yeah. Now, tell us more about your specific job, particularly with respect to sales. So most of our students want to be in a few years where you are now. Probably it will be more several decades, but so they want to sort of lead sales at a major company. So how does it work? What does your job or your team do, and how do you advertise the product to companies? Do you just simply call them one by one? Do you run some advertisement? So in a B2B business, I assume you're not advertising on TV or on the radio, right? It's probably a different type of. So how do you promote your product, and what does it entail for you personally and people who work under you on the sales for a company like yours?
Okay, well, in terms of, let's say, advertising, I mean, as you said, we don't have a mass market, so we don't use any radio, things like this. For us, it's quite, the newsletter, for example, is quite effective, but we have our own database of major, let's say, buyers all over the world. The newsletter giving also some information about, for example, we make our own monthly, let's say, review of the tendency regarding edible oils in terms of pricing, in terms of many things. So we tend to give this information to our, let's say, possible customers all over the world. So this is we have a quite interesting newsletter that we produce for these companies. Very short one. I mean, it's not a big one because people don't have so much time.
Right, especially in the B2B.
But I mean, some important information about things, our goings, our the harvest, and all the things regarding, let's say, oil in general. Okay, this is quite effective in terms of sales. Of course, I mean, is a direct contact, the one that still makes sales good. I always say one thing, and I do, as a tutor as well. We are talking about, we're talking to human beings. So, especially in the B2B, it's a very complicated not to go in the, let's say, in the human level, even if there is a sort of a buying process and things like this. That is something we have to care a lot. I mean, to be human, to take the relation human, especially today that, I mean, we are making a lot of difficulties in terms of communication. We only can see each other in a video when, I mean, trade show are off since 2 years, so we don't meet people. So
we actually have a few questions about that. We
Yes.
do have a few questions about this new reality with video, but there are a few more questions. So are you going to or are there any professional exhibitions or fairs or places like conventions for oil producers where you may meet some of your distributors and retailers, or it's not a big thing in your industry?
I mean, in the past, we did many trade shows and things like this. Of course, as I said, in the last 2 years, we are quite blocked. We actually went to the Cybus in Palma last year, but it was not very good. So that's why we are waiting, because I mean, the trade show is a big investment, both in terms of money, but also in terms of efforts, physical efforts for people, because I mean, you have to travel, then to make all the, let's say, pre-sales campaign, pre-trade show campaign, the post trade show campaign and things. So it's a big effort. So if it is not the right one, you can lose too much in the sense of timing and efforts and money and things like that.
So it's not you just show up with a table, put some of your products and wait for people to show up. It's not like that. It's more complicated.
Yeah. Trade show for food are mainly like this.
So how about COVID? So several students asked about the impact of COVID on your business. And so you already mentioned that it used to be more face-to-face and now it's more online. Any other impacts? And is it negative or positive? I mean, sales went down or up?
In our case, as I said, I mean, of course, let's say the direct contact has been impossible, especially since, well, we have a branch in China, but it's 2 years we cannot go to our branch in China because I mean we simply can't go there. So I mean it's a limitation in the sense we cannot meet customers. I mean we have been prevented to do so in the last 1.5 years. Today the situation is definitely improving, but I mean still it's not that easy to travel. I would say this makes the things complicated because I mean a face-to-face meeting is always more effective than a conference, or I mean it is more difficult anyway. We have been I mean I'm an old sales guy so we have been taught to learn body languages and things like this, so this is extremely difficult to do it on a video conference. So
very true.
These things are for sure making things complicated. So we have to change our mind. That's why we think that Alibaba was a great tool, because I mean we have the possibility to reach many let's say possible customers all over the world without doing a trade show. Actually, Alibaba is a big trade show. It's a virtual trade show.
Yeah,
so
that's very true.
That was a good compensation of the fact that we cannot travel. So online in general, we are trying to develop new marketplaces in general. For example, for the Oilio de Papi, we are in that case we are thinking about the let's say end customer and user sales.
Yeah. Tell us also about your shipping and logistics. So how do you send off your products? Is it mainly rail or sea or some other way? So some of your products are going far away. So you mentioned thousands of kilometers.
Let's say this depends on where they're going. In Europe is mainly by truck. So Europe is I would say 90% by truck. In UK we are still selling by sea, but only UK. The rest of Europe is truck, and the rest is a sea as well. We only have one exception, that is China, where there is a train actually organized. There's a special train to transport goods from Milan to China.
Is this part of this One Belt Road initiative that Chinese government does? So I know they're building roads to be able to supply products from and to all around the world to China and from China.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So it makes it much more convenient, I hear. So
it's faster as well. It's very.
Yeah. It's even faster, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So if I may, so we've heard a lot about your company and there may be more questions, but if I may, a few questions about your advice from the point of your experience to our students. So most of our participants are either MBA students or business students that will be graduating in about a year. Most of them want to be, as I said, where you are in a few years. So if you had to do it all over again, if you wake up and you're again 19 or 22, what would you do, or what advice would you give to people like that in terms of education, experience, especially in this sort of uncertain world where much of education is online, where, you know, things are changing so fast? So how would you do it if you had to do it again now?
That's a good question. I've never thought about it. It's a difficult one. Well, I mean, in terms of personal experience, I think anyhow that, I mean, an MBA is an excellent study. I mean, to me, it's probably the best you can perform if you want to do this job. Of course, one thing that I suggest people that has been a lot of beneficial for me is to travel a lot to know cultures, because this can really make a change in your approach to people. Culture is something that many people tends to, let's say, simply forget. They just think, and this is I've seen this from many directions. I would say US think that all the people should be like them, and European have the same vision. So traveling makes you understand different culture, because a lot of people think of other culture much more similar to us, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes they are more similar to what you think. Sometimes they have completely different approach to things, the way of behaving. I make you an example, since I know Japan quite well. A big problem in the past with Japanese was a simple word, the I. Japanese used to say I to say I understand what you say.
Yeah.
And many people think that I was yes, okay.
That's true.
And for Japanese, I is only I understand what you say, but I'm not saying that I agree with you. You understand?
That is very true. That is very true. Yes.
So these things can really change a negotiation, because I mean, people think, okay, we are okay now.
Any other cultural differences that you noticed? So you said you work with China, you work with Latin America.
Yeah,
so,
Southern America, for example, when before I moved to South America, I thought was much more, and many Europeans think that Southern America is much more Latin culture. So we think about, like, Southern Europe, Italy, Greece, and on the contrary, there is nothing to do. They only have Latin language, but the culture is much more, let's say, North American oriented. So they
interesting. Very interesting. How about China? Are they more like Japanese, or are they?
Yeah. China is another very difficult, complicated culture. Of course, I mean, also in that sense, they are very, very different. But I mean, I do expect that Chinese have a different culture, I would say. I don't think anyone would expect Chinese to have the same approach to life of let's say, European or things like this. I think this is, of course, I mean, to make business with Chinese sometimes can be difficult, but I mean, again, it's a human factor. So you have to really work on yourself to understand the way to behave, to make things together. Because I mean, the aim is always to do something together. So you have to understand how to have this common target, I would say.
The last question from me, and I'm not sure if there will be more from the students. When you hire people, what are you looking for? Especially when you hire people for sort of entry-level positions who don't have much experience yet, but graduated recently. What are you paying attention to? And so what do they need to have on the resume or say in the interview to impress you?
Well, to me, the differentiating, the real differentiation, I mean, of course, there is a list of things you need to have. I mean, of course, if you don't speak languages, I think it would be difficult for you to communicate. But the behavior, I think, is probably the one that I believe is the most important. So there are things that to be a salesperson, to be a marketing salesperson, you need to have in your character. It is extremely difficult that you will get this with your experience. So, for example, I make you an example. To me, this is my opinion. The first quality for someone who wants to deal with sales is to listen. So if you're not a good listener, you will not succeed in sales. And this is something that to me is extremely important. So this is one example, but I mean, the character, the behavior is probably the two things that, I mean, I focus the most on when making a selection of people.
Yeah. Well, that's very wise.
I don't know if I answer your question.
No, that's exactly what I, sort of expected to hear. I was hoping maybe that there is something you say, okay, do these two things and you will guaranteed be hired by me. But I think it's more complicated, right? It's a little bit more deeper than that.
Yeah.
You cannot, yeah. So, and that's, yeah. Students always look for some little, like one weird trick that will get you any job. And I don't think there is anything like that, right? You have to be a little bit, there is more to the game.
I don't think for sales.
Yeah.
I mean, I do have my tricks
to
employ people. But then again, it's making, it's part of their way of being. I mean, so if they are not like they have to be, I don't think they will do anything to change.
Right. Yeah. Well, so thank you so much for the information. So we have recorded this meeting. I will share it with all the other students. So what will happen next? We have several thousand students in this competition now. And so
thousands.
Yes. So we have a total of about 6,000 this semester, but I'm not sure how many will choose your company. So I expect anywhere between a few hundred to maybe, we'll see. So maybe 100 teams plus or minus. And so they will spend the semester trying to answer the questions and come up with brilliant ideas for how to grow your business. There will be probably questions. So most of the students will be watching the recording, and that's when they have the questions. So when that happens, we will maybe contact you for more information. We know you're very busy. So what we do to kind of minimize your time is my assistant compiles the questions and the answers. And so if it's a new question that we don't know the answer to, we will contact you. But if it's a question that somebody else asked, which is almost always, we will just copy and paste the answer. So this way we don't need to waste your time. And then, yes, towards the end of the semester, they will submit their proposals, ideas. We will summarize them for you, but also we'll give you the full reports. And yes, hopefully they will have many brilliant ideas, and maybe you will be in new countries in a few years thanks to these leads. So we'll see.
I'm ready to listen. So I mean, it's I think we have always space to learn. So why not?
And for the students, I will say that every semester we have a case when some students impress the company so much that when the CEO reads the report, they send me an email and say, hey, who wrote this? I want to talk to this person. And then we always have some people who get either job offers or internships offers. I don't know if this company will offer you that, but if you do a really, really good job, sometimes you may impress your client, in this case, I guess, so much that they will want to talk to you. So don't waste this opportunity. Don't think about it as just a course. So maybe there will be something there that interests the company. If you ever wanted to be in the olive oil business, maybe that would be your chance.
Okay,
so
great.
Well, have a nice day. I guess in your case, evening. So good evening then. And to everyone, depending on where you are, nice day, good morning. So, and yes,
good
thank
morning,
you so much.
Good evening, good night.
Very informative. Thank you so much. And I see Professor Elia is here. Stefano, thank you so much for setting up this meeting. So it was very informative.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Giuseppe.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Vasim.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.